The golden age of American and European freak shows spanned about a century, from roughly 1840 to 1940. During that time, many freak show performers used their conditions to earn a solid income and gain publicity and fame. But for female performers especially, being on stage pushed hard against Victorian norms. In a time when women were expected to stay near the hearth and out of the spotlight, these 15 women turned that expectation on its head, selling their born deformities and their made physical features as part of the show. Let's start off this list with number 15, the Armless Wonder. Martha Morris was born in the early 1900s. She wasn't just born without arms. Her lower legs were missing as well. Her feet were positioned just below her hips, making it impossible for her to walk, stand, or even dress herself. She relied entirely on a wheelchair, pushed by an assistant wherever she went. But that didn't stop her from becoming a well-known performer. Billed as Martha the Armless Wonder, she became a featured act at Coney Island and later toured with the traveling Freak City show in the 1920s. While her condition drew stares, Martha made her name through poise and presence. She didn't speak often on stage, but her silence had weight. Her body was unchangeable, but her spirit wasn't. Audiences didn't always know what to expect, but they remembered her long after the lights dimmed. Martha didn't choose her condition, but she chose what to do with it. And for years, she lived that choice center stage. Number 14, the Carnival Senorita. Chikita, also known as Senorita Espiridena Alize Chenda, stood only 26 inches tall and weighed just 18.5 pounds by the age of 21. She was perfectly proportioned, small in size, but not in presence. Of Cuban or Mexican heritage, she gained fame as a major carnival attraction in the early 1900s. In 1901, she appeared at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, performing with the Bostock Ferrari Carnival. Frank C. Bostock, often credited as the father of the American carnival format, made her one of his top stars. She drew crowds not through exaggeration or gimmickry, but through elegance, grace, and charm. Her size may have drawn attention, but it was her personality that held it. She performed at World's Fairs and exhibitions across the country, always dressed in elaborate costumes and introduced with flair. Chikita wasn't a sideshow oddity, she was a performer, and she owned the spotlight. In short, she was amazing. Number 13, Four-Legged Woman. Myrtle was 13 when her dad put her on stage. She had 4 legs, 2 of her own and 2 smaller ones between them, remnants of a parasitic twin. Audiences were stunned. Doctors were fascinated. Barnum snatched her up. So did Ringling Brothers and the Coney Island circuit. They dressed her in elegant lace, handed out picture books with her story, and described her as gentle as summer sunshine. The contrast made her more popular. Monstrous body, soft nature. She earned $450 a week, more than most doctors at the time. But her fame wasn't just in the circus. Medical journals published her story. Scientists dissected her childbirth experience like it belonged to science, not to her. They called her a fusion monster. But Myrtle lived like anyone else. She married, raised children, aged. She didn't ask to be studied. She didn't choose the spotlight. But in a world that turned difference into money, she walked into it and owned it. Number 12, Ella Milbower. Freak shows thrived on visual extremes. Tiny beside tall, skeletal beside obese. That's how fat ladies like Ella became staple acts. Billed as 586 pounds of feminine charm, Ella joined the Ringling Circus in 1956, well after the sideshow boom had faded. Replacing the previous fat lady, Alice from Dallas, Ella only toured for 5 years before the freak show industry collapsed. Still, her name endures, immortalized in Drew Friedman's 2011 book Sideshow Freaks. For someone performing after the Golden Age, that's no small feat. Historically, fat ladies were often paid less and treated as filler acts. Yet Ella's persona left an impression. Her performances relied on contrast, often placed beside average-sized people or human skeleton acts to exaggerate her size. That juxtaposition was part of the show's design. In a culture obsessed with thinness, Ella's presence turned the spectacle back on the crowd. She wasn't just a weight on display, she was defiant proof that beauty standards meant nothing under the circus lights. Number 11. The 7 Sutherland Sisters. The 7 Sutherland Sisters made more money selling hair tonic than singing ballads, but it all started with the circus. Raised by their adoptive dad, Fletcher Sutherland, the sisters, Sarah, Victoria, Isabella, Grace, Naomi, Mary, and Dora, performed as a musical act for Barnum and Bailey. Their final trick was letting down their floor-length hair, which totaled nearly 37 feet combined. Crowds were stunned. Their father took notice. He turned their signature look into a product, 7 Sutherland Sisters hair grower. It raked in $90,000 in its first year, thanks to the circus exposure. But fame doesn't last. They squandered their fortune and faded from the spotlight when bob cuts and shorter hairstyles replaced long, flowing locks. Still, their act blurred the line between spectacle and brand. They weren't just freaks. They were early celebrities using the stage to launch an empire. Their story is a reminder. Sometimes the sideshow was just the start, and the real performance came at the register. But the end for them was not good at all. Number 10. Joyce Heth. She was billed in 1835 as the greatest natural and national curiosity in the world, and Joyce Heth endured relentless gawking and examination as crowds puzzled over her gnarled hands and frail, withered frame. Could she truly be 161 years old, as the posters claimed? Had this elderly black woman really nursed George Washington as a baby? Absolutely not. But P.T. Barnum didn't care. As long as her appearance sparked questions, he profited. Barnum had purchased Heth, a formerly enslaved woman, from Kentucky showman R.W. Lindsay, and paraded her across the Northeast for 7 months as her health deteriorated. Admission was 25 cents. Some spectators suspected she was an automaton. She wasn't. When she died in 1836, Barnum still cashed in, charging 50 cents for admission to her public autopsy. Doctors declared she was no older than 80. Barnum's hoax set the tone for the freak show era. If the story sold, the truth didn't matter. Hokum wasn't the trick, it was the business. Number 9. Hilton Sisters. The Hilton Sisters were among the few sideshow stars to break out of the circus tent and land in mainstream Hollywood. Conjoined twins Daisy and Violet became top earners on the vaudeville circuit during the 1930s, reportedly making up to $5,000 a week. In 1932, they appeared in Todd Browning's Freaks, and by 1950, they starred in the B-movie Chained for Life, a dramatization of their romantic struggles. Their path to fame wasn't accidental. They were raised to entertain. Trained from early childhood by the midwife who delivered them, they learned to sing, dance, and play instruments. By age 3, they were performing at circuses and carnivals. Their adoptive guardian, known as Auntie, kept all their earnings. Not until they were 23 did the twins pursue legal action to secure their income. Despite brief fame, most of their relationships were strained and ended quickly. After their careers faded in the 1960s, both worked quietly at a grocery store in Charlotte. Number 8. Josephine Joseph. Austrian-born Josephine Joseph became one of the most iconic half-and-half performers in freak show history. P.T. Barnum had long embraced gaffed acts, staged hoaxes crafted for effect, and Josephine was a classic example. These dual-gender attractions claimed to be intersex, though many were likely costume delusions. In Josephine's case, the right half of her body appeared male. Cropped hair, muscular build, leopard print strongman suit. The left half? Feminine curls, makeup, and stockings. Audiences were captivated. Her most famous appearance came in 1932 in Todd Browning's cult film Freaks, where she stood silently among the ensemble cast. Outside that role, little is known about her life. She may have been a male impersonator or perhaps truly intersex, but the ambiguity was the draw. In the world of sideshows, mystery was currency. Josephine's carefully split appearance invited speculation, disbelief, and fascination, everything a good freak show act needed. Her story is less about identity and more about performance, crafted, sold, and sealed with a spotlight. Number 7. Lavinia Warren. When Lavinia married Tom Thumb in 1863, President Lincoln hosted their reception at the White House. The New York Times published a lengthy article praising the 32-inch tall Queen of Beauty and her ornate wedding gown. The heavily publicized ceremony became a defining moment of the sideshow era, when two so-called freaks were briefly celebrated as stars. Charles Stratton had been exhibited by Barnum since the age of 11. By the time of his wedding, he was world famous. Lavinia began performing in 1858 at a maritime museum run by her uncle, later joining Barnum in 1862. There, Stratton became enamored with her. Barnum seized the publicity opportunity, and the engagement drew massive crowds. After Stratton died in 1883, Lavinia married Count Primo Magri, another little person performer. But by then, the freak show's popularity had dimmed, and the spotlight that once followed her had long since moved on. Number 6. The longest bearded lady. Madame Devere was more than just another bearded lady. She held a record, 14 inches of facial hair that stunned audiences across the country. Born in Kentucky in the 1840s or 50s, her first name, possibly Mary or Jane, remains uncertain. What's not debated is her legacy. Married to her manager, J.W. Devere, she debuted in 1884 at Huber's Museum in New York, then toured with Sells Brothers Circus. Her career spanned decades, with appearances for Campbell Brothers in 1906, Yankee Robinson in 1908, and still performing in 1912 with the Patterson shows. That same year, while traveling through Olwine, Iowa, she fell ill and passed away. Her beard was the attraction, but her longevity was the story. She didn't hide her difference. She owned it. In a world built on mockery, she walked through every spotlight on her own terms. Her beard drew stares, but her presence demanded respect. She was a real legend. Number 5. World's Homeliest Woman. Accounts of Ann Bevan often note that the world's homeliest woman wasn't born with distorted features. Like many sideshow performers, her appearance was caused by a medical condition, acromegaly or adult-onset gigantism. The disorder triggers excess growth hormone, leading to enlarged bones and facial disfigurement. In 1903, Bevan was a nurse, married to a farmer, and raising 4 children. Her husband's unexpected death left her a widow and sole provider. In 1914, she entered and won a Homeliest Woman contest to support her family. That title led to work at Coney Island's Dreamland and the Ringling Brothers Circus, where she displayed her condition to uneasy spectators until her death in 1933. In 2006, a British doctor protested a Hallmark card mocking Bevan's image, outraged that her medical condition was being laughed at. The company eventually pulled the card, but only after her face had already been turned into a punchline decades after she died. She was not ugly, but a beautiful lady. Number 4. The Two-Headed Nightingale. Millie Christine McCoy was born into slavery in 1852. At the time, enslaved kids with disabilities were seen as burdens, but Millie and Christine's rarity gave them value as sideshow acts. Before age 6, they were bought and sold several times. Eventually, a salesman named Joseph Pearson Smith purchased the girls and their family. His wife taught them to read, write, sing, and dance. They performed for nearly 30 years, mostly as vocalists. Nicknamed the Two-Headed Nightingale, They toured the US and Europe, appearing at Barnum's American Museum and even before Queen Victoria. Their printed biography and songbook sold at performances for a quarter. By 1882, they were earning $25,000 touring with the Great Inter-Ocean Railroad Show. In fact, in post-Civil War America, that level of income for black women was almost unheard of. They retired soon after. They died in 1912 after Millie was diagnosed with tuberculosis. Number 3. Emma Leech. In 1771, long before Barnum's empire, a woman named Emma Leech became the first human curiosity publicly exhibited in the United States. A dwarf, standing just 22 inches tall, she was displayed in Boston and printed in Ames's Almanac. Her portrait placed beside political figures like John Dickinson and Catherine Macaulay. But only Emma's image included a written piece, one that reduced her entirely to her height and physiology, erasing any trace of thought, voice, or personal history. While it detailed her body, the author added that it may not be so particular as the curious would desire, because Emma refused an accurate examination. That refusal, quiet, subtle, was its own resistance. In a world fixated on her form, she denied full access. She remained partly unknowable, human within a system built to dehumanize. Emma Leech didn't choose to be remembered as a spectacle, but her refusal to surrender fully is what still lingers, echoing louder than the gawking ever could. Number 2. Baboon Lady. Julia Pastrana was once described by Charles Darwin as a remarkably fine woman, though she had a full beard and a pronounced jawline. Born in a Mexican orphanage around 1834, Pastrana had a rare disorder called congenital generalized hypertrichosis terminalis with gingival hypertrophy, which caused dense hair growth, enlarged gums, and facial deformation. At the time, scientists didn't know what caused her appearance, making her both a sideshow draw and a medical curiosity. Pastrana toured throughout the US, Europe, and Russia as a nondescript, a term used to describe human-animal hybrids or gender anomalies. She leaned into the contrast, wearing lace dresses, flowers, and jewelry while singing arias and performing dances like the Highland Fling. Despite her fame, Pastrana remained isolated and often subjected to invasive exams. In 1860, she died giving birth to a child who shared her condition and lived only 2 days. Both mother and son were embalmed and exhibited posthumously. Number 1. Laurette Fulkerson. Laurette made her body a living mural long before tattoos became mainstream. Born in 1915, she inked over 90% of her skin, building a career as one of the most recognized tattooed ladies of her time. She performed with Ringling Brothers, Hubert's Museum, and Hall and Christ beneath banners that simply read, "Tattooed Lady." For Laurette, body art wasn't rebellion, it was armor. "Every scar tells a story, every tattoo adds a chapter," one fan once wrote, and Laurette wore those chapters from scalp to heel. Once a headlining act, she later became a remnant of fading sideshows, but she never stopped. Even as public curiosity thinned, she wore her tattoos like royal robes, unapologetic and proud. Nicknamed the last tattooed lady, she outlived gawkers, exploitation, and the freak show era itself. When she died in 2007 at 92, she took that era with her. Laurette didn't just showcase ink, she embodied it. Her story remains etched in legacy and skin. If you've enjoyed watching this video, be sure to like it, share it, and subscribe for more stories like this. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you in the next one.